Hi, I'm Tom Olsen from the Springfield office in Missouri, and today we're going to cover the disassembling and assembling the shelter, the temperature shelter, also known as the beehive. First thing you got to realize is that when they're out in the field, they can get dirty. You got a lot of bugs and wasps and mud daubers that'll get in there and produce their nests, and it may affect the temperature reading. So it's good to get these cleaned at least once a year. First thing you want to do is you'll flip it over, and you notice that there's the 4 bolts there. They shouldn't be too tight where you could get them off with your hands. If not, you can use a wrench to help remove the top nut. So I remove all 4 nuts. Set everything on the side there and make sure you don't lose any of the pieces. And sometimes when you get these from the NLSC, they'll have them tightened down maybe too much. So once you get them, you might want to check, because if they haven't tightened down too much, you'll notice some of them will start getting cracks. It'll crack because of the pressures on them so much, and then you get the winter time. The cold, and it gets warm, it'll contract and expand, and that'll start breaking it apart. So you want to make sure it's just hand tight. And you notice on the top here, there's also washers on the top, from the top one there, and then these are little plastic things that hold up the top part of the. And you'll notice there's this is the top one, and it doesn't have a hole. There's a difference, and you'll see at the bottom where the cable or the thermistor goes in. And if you count these out, so we got the top is 1 piece, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there'll be 9 total pieces. So if you're doing multiple ones, you'll know that you got 9 for each one. So you notice this this is where the thermistor is, and you can pull that off. And again, it shouldn't be too tight. You should be able to get it off with your hands. And you have to remove the top nut here. And that just slides up. And to get the rest of it off, you have to pull this other nut off the thermistor. And with that, we're going to slide that through the one hole. And you notice with this flat one goes on to the bottom piece here. You'll have the flat one, then this one that the thermistor goes on, and then you'll have 4 or 5 other pieces, and then the top piece. So that's, always remember that way. We'll show that on the reverse when we put it back together. And here's the last one. Sometimes this can get a little difficult if the hole's not big enough. You just gotta squeeze it a little bit, and then the thermistor comes out. So once you've pulled these off, there's different methods of washing them. I used just Dawn dishwashing soap in a bucket outside and just soak them for a while, and then I use a brush to brush them off and then rinse them off and let them dry. So the reverse process is you'll use this will go at the bottom one, and what I'll do is I'll put that back in first, then you just line them up to put them through. Once you get that first one on, the other ones go on a lot easier. Good. Put that up. And again, the next one is the flat, where it doesn't go through. You'll run that through one of the holes. So somebody might be asking, when do we send these back to NLSC? What conditions are you looking for to send these back? I usually do it if there's the paint starting to peel off of them, or there's cracks. You want to probably send them back, and then they'll replace the parts for it. So now the next step is to put the thermistor on. And again, we're just going to do the reverse process. Put the first bolt on, and then the lock washer. And then after that is just the regular washer. Set that through, and then put the other bolt on the top and hand tighten it. You don't want to crank it down too much because that might break the plastic there. So hand tightening is good. Set that down, and then we set the next ones go through. The top one goes up on here. And once that's on, you have to put the next 4 plastic cap things. I don't know what the technical description is. And you also want to put washers on top of them. And the last part is the cover. And these covers too, if you got bad covers, you can order these at NLC separate. This is one of the only ones I believe we can order separate. The other pieces we can't order those yet, but they do sell the top part. So once we put that in, you kind of push up on the bottom one, put the top caps on. I get all these done. Again, I'll hand tighten them. But I also like to do is to plug them in over and test them out and see if that thermistor is a good reading on there. I tested out to another one that I know is good that I've kind of tested before to make sure it's giving us a good reading. So now I'm going to hand tighten them down. Again, you don't want to use a wrench and crank them down too tight. And like I said, we want to test them, so what I'll do is I'll just flip it over. And I don't know if you can see the other, I've got 2 set up over here. And what I usually do is these 2 have been testing, and they're pretty close temperature, so they're pretty stable. So I'm going to use those as a test to make sure that this one's giving us a good reading. I'll just flip it over and put that in place of the other one. And you'll probably notice that the temperature's a little warm because I was touching that thermistor. It's going to take a little while to stabilize, and hopefully they'll be within like maybe half a degree is good to have. If you start seeing stuff 1 degree to 2 degrees difference, you may consider sending that back to NLSC to get a newer one and let them know that the temperature is reading too warm or too cold. And that's all I have for today about the beehive or the temperature shelter. Thanks for joining me.